Hi, how are you? Hope everybody's doing well. Let's talk about scripture. The scripture readings are taken from the prophet Ezekiel, from the second letter to the Corinthians, and from the Gospel of Mark. And in them, we see how God gets through. Whether we heed or resist, we face rebellion and unbelief. The prophet Ezekiel was frustrated with his mission to communicate God's message to the Israelites, knowing that many would not listen to him, would resist him. In the reading, it says that God recognized that they are a rebellious house, hard of face and obstinate heart. But God knows this and still feels that it's worthy to go and preach to them, to communicate the gospel, the good news. And even more, that something could be accomplished. Even if they don't listen, even if they reject the prophet. The mission is for them to know, as it says in the reading, that a prophet has been among them. If they forget or discard everything, he's going to tell them the image of God will be imprinted and remain in them, with them, present among them, because of this prophet. God was going to mark them with an impression of himself. This means that God is able to work through our rebellious nature. And we all have it, to some degree. Jesus had a similar experience. The people of his town were resistant and didn't believe Jesus because they had different expectations of who Jesus could offer them. The Jesus that they knew growing up and already knew. Despite showing immense wisdom and knowledge, despite showing that he had the power to perform miracles, they rejected him. They couldn't conceive that the town carpenter was a prophet. In that way, they limit themselves into opening themselves to what they really had in front of them. But we all do that. We limit ourselves too. We compartmentalize and kind of like arrange everything into nice, tidy drawers of things that we already know. We like everything to make sense and logic. We like to understand our surroundings and what we're facing. And in our effort to do that, we sometimes create preconceptions and prejudices that help us feel necessary, comfortable in the world that we constantly feel that is challenging us, surprising us, and trying to teach us new things. But Jesus left a mark on them. He left them restless. He left them asking questions. It says in the scripture, they were astonished, and they took offense at him. When we compare the stories of the prophet Ezekiel and Jesus in the gospel, it seems that Jesus and the prophet Ezekiel have wasted their time a little. But the reality is different. The reality is that God does not waste a second. Let's say that even a millisecond, he doesn't waste. Because God uses everything and penetrates our rebellious nature and penetrates our resistance until he reaches the depth of our beings. If we do not accept it with our intellect, he anyway leaves an impression through other means. Perhaps He impregnates in our minds, in our memories, an image, an action, a feeling, an emotion, a word, a question. Because God always sows, always works. We may be discouraged by how little we notice because we don't see any change. We don't see any results. We can get frustrated that they do not listen to us, that they don't believe us, that they don't pay attention, that they don't respond to our invitation. But sometimes God allows us to see the power of the presence, the power of the little, the simple, of our efforts. Even our efforts, even if we feel that they don't have any responses, produce something. And in that, we remember that we are not powerful, but that God is, that we're weak, vulnerable. And that's what Paul recognized in the second letter to the Corinthians, when he said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for power is made perfect in weakness." So, the next time we perceive that no one is believing us, that no one is understanding us, that no one is listening to us, no matter how much we try and insist, let it go. Yes, let it go. Let's continue with our work. Let's continue with other people that really need us. And let's continue in message. And let's rest our minds and our hearts, knowing that God always gets through, that God is always working, not at our time, but at His time. Let's continue sowing what God has given to each one of us. Let's offer it to the world and reminding that God is the one in charge. We do what God asks from each one of us, and He takes care of the results. May God bless you all, and let's be saints.